how it went, and how the expected one-night stand somehow... One-night stand. Bloopers! Hi and welcome to the vlog. I'm Tova and this is ParentXP. Back in 2018, we decided to put Elin through surgery to put a feeding tube into her stomach. We've put together a series of videos documenting the whole process. And this video is the third and final one in which I talk about the surgery, how it went, and how the expected one-night stay turned into 6 nights before we more or less picked our daughter up and walked out of there. Because by that point, we were all thoroughly fed up with being in hospital. The morning of the surgery finally arrived. It was a Friday morning, and after a very, very early start to get Elin's medicine into her, together with a bit of water, which was all she was allowed on the morning of the surgery, we got into the car at 6 AM and drove over to Cambridge, where we were quite quickly set up in the pre-op ward and got to meet a whole host of people that morning. The first person who came to see us was the pre-op nurse who did Elin's observations and put the name bands on her, and she also gave us a one of these surgical hospital gown thingies to get changed into. And then the surgeon that we hadn't so far met popped in. So there are 2 surgeons on the team. We met one of them on the surgical council, and this was the other surgeon. So he came in to say hi and do a sort of final check. Did we know what they were going to do? What were we expecting? What could we expect? All of that kind of thing. So that was nice. And then we got both the anaesthetists come to talk to us. So they really made up for the fact that they had missed the pre-op assessment. They came, they spent a long time with us talking through Elin and her reaction and what they were planning to do to help her. So the first thing they were planning to do was to give her a calming medication so that when she woke up, she would wake up very, very drowsy and probably more prone to sleep than scream. Which sounded really good. Definitely, we were definitely keen on that. And the other thing is they mentioned something called post-anaesthetic delirium, which is what they think Elin might be suffering from. So in post-anaesthetic delirium, you come out of the anaesthesia feeling incredibly disoriented and nauseous and horrible and yeah, all of those things. So we don't know because Elin can't describe how she feels, but guesses from how she reacts, they say it is a potential that that is what she suffers from. Apparently there are some studies that suggest that post-anaesthetic delirium is linked to using the gas. And therefore, they decided to do a 2-pronged approach. So apart from the calming medicine, they also wanted to swap from the gas once she was asleep to the IV anaesthetics and keep her asleep during the operation using IV rather than gas. So that's what we agreed on. Everything was fine. We were all happy. They went and Elin and I sat down and waited. Då kommer de. Då kommer bedövningsläkaren och hämtar dig snart. Och så säger de, så går vi in i ett annat rum. Och det är då vi kommer med den här masken du vet. Okej? Och den kommer göra att du somnar. Och mamma är där, okej? Mamma är där medan du somnar. Och sen så kommer de operera på dig. Och det gör de när du sover, så du kommer inte känna någonting. Det kommer vara jättebra, du kommer inte känna ett skvatt. Okej? Och sen när du vaknar, så är mamma inte där omedelbart när du vaknar. För jag får inte lov att gå in förrän de är alldeles säkra på att du mår okej. Okej? Men sen kommer jag in. The actual surgery itself went really well. The procedure went as easily as the team could possibly have hoped for. So it wasn't very long after she'd gone in that I was paged to come back up. They paged me early, so this was another thing we talked about with Elin's recovery. They were going to page me early, so I was right outside the door as soon as they could let me into her. So I sat in a corridor outside theatre for a while, just waiting for her to be awake enough that I could go in and see her. Yeah, so I got to go into her and I hopped up in the bed she was on, and I lay there snuggling her and comforting her. She was quite upset. She was crying a lot. But I could reach her. I could actually communicate with her, and she was responding to me, and at times she would be relaxed enough to actually go to sleep for a little bit. So we spent the next 3 hours just snuggling and singing, and huge difference to what we've normally seen, because our usual experience of Elin having been under GA is that she goes full Nazgul, shrieking like mad for hours. So yeah, this was just brilliant. It was such a difference. Next time she has to go under GA, this is what we'll be requesting, exactly the same procedure, because it's made a massive difference to her. And then she was sort of awake enough and calm enough that they eventually moved us into the ward where we were going to stay overnight. And yeah, we had some nice time. We got some smiles. We had a whole bunch of sensory lights by our bedside. Yeah, it was actually okay. I was feeling really positive. The one thing we didn't have was a morphine pump, which they had talked about, but they decided last minute not to bother and just offer Oramorph instead if required. And initially it just didn't seem like she would need it, but hours went on. Towards the evening she was starting to be quite unsettled. It was clear that she was uncomfortable, in a bit of pain, and then she started vomiting. If you're squeamish, you might want to jump forward a bit. Elin vomits a lot. That's one of her problems. And because she vomits so much, her esophagus and her throat are actually quite aggravated, and it means that she bleeds when she vomits. The blood doesn't come from her stomach, it comes from her esophagus, but even so, it's quite extreme. And a child who's had abdominal surgery and starts to vomit blood, the surgeons aren't going to be too happy about it. No, they're not. No, they're not. We put in an antiemetic, which quite frankly didn't seem to do much. And I spent a whole night with a very distressed and very sick Elin. It was not nice. Neither of us got any sleep. The other poor child who was sharing a room with us, and his mom didn't get any sleep. He wasn't doing too great either, to be honest. They were both quite upset, and there were times when they were sort of setting each other off a bit. But yeah, it was a hard night. Second dose of antiemetic the next morning, and this one finally took effect and she started feeling a bit better. The vomiting wasn't so extreme. And towards the afternoon that second day, they started doing the test feeds. So I've gone through that the test feeds, they put in a certain amount of liquid and they leave it for a while, and then they expect to get less than half out, that the stomach has absorbed it. And in Elin's case, they kept getting more out. So they were thinking that her stomach wasn't really absorbing anything, which would explain them getting the same amount out, but not them getting more out. But they left it for several hours, then they tried again. So they put in a bit of fluid, they left her for twice as long, aspirated again, got significantly more out. So at this point, Rob and I kind of turn around and we say, we have always suspected that Elin has quite extreme stomach acid production. Is this proof of that? Yeah, it probably is. Okay, well, could we see a gastroenterologist by any chance? Be a good idea. So it's now Sunday. We're asking to see a gastroenterologist. They're obviously not in until Monday. We are delaying any attempts of milk feed, so we're keeping her nil by mouth, keeping her on the IV, and keep just testing with water. They're putting her medicines through the peg, and she's responding to the medicine, so she's obviously absorbing something. But we're kind of stuck in a bit of a Groundhog Day of just the same over and over. And then it's Monday, it's the working week, the dietitian's in, so she comes to see us. The gastro team is in. They don't come to see us, which is quite frustrating. The surgical team has seen her every day since the surgery. The incision's looking fantastic. It seems to be healing up well. There are no issues there. On day 4, after losing a number of cannulas, we started milk feeds. At this point, we've kind of run out of places to cannulate Elin. She's got bruises on her hands and her arms and her feet and her legs. And we have no other means of getting fluids into her than putting them through the peg. And so the dietitian is pushing for a reasonable amount of volume and a reasonable amount of speed of getting this into her, except that we know that that doesn't work on Elin. So we say that, you know, slow down and do it differently. And I think it's fair to say we had a slight difference of opinion. And Elin did struggle. She did struggle with the volumes that were put in and the speed that it was put in at. She kept being sick, which is not ideal, obviously. And this went on for another couple of days. And I mean, at this time, we are exhausted. We're driving an hour there and back. We have Alice at home. Rob and I are swapping over every 24 hours. We're doing 24 hours in hospital, 24 hours at home with Alice. We are just so tired. Elin has not had a proper night's sleep this whole time because every 2-3 hours a nurse is in the room and doing observations on her or giving medicines on her, because when you're in hospital, medicines have to be given on a 24-hour schedule for some strange reason. We don't know why. Or, you know, trying to pump more milk into her in the middle of the night, which she doesn't really like. And, you know, it was wearing us down a lot. So finally, on day 6, when the surgeon said you can go home, we more or less picked our girl up and walked out because we'd had enough. The dietitian wasn't very happy about us leaving, but as we said to her, we have so much experience doing this because Elin is hospitalized several times a year for excessive vomiting, and we take her home after several days of nil by mouth and we bring her up to adequate level of fluids. And actually doing it at home at our pace, where we can respond to how she seems to be react minute by minute, is a really effective way of doing it. So that's what we wanted to do. We got a feeding plan, we got a different kind of milk to try out, and we hadn't at this stage seen the gastroenterologist, but we just wanted to go home and get our lives back to normal. So home we went on a Thursday. Elin had a full night's sleep, and lo and behold, the next morning she was finally tolerating her feeds. And we've been increasing the volume day by day ever since. She's been back to school from the Monday after, so she had a long weekend at home, and then on the Monday she went back to school. We are cautiously optimistic that we finally found a milk that she tolerates really well, and we have a follow-up appointment with gastroenterology to come in about a month's time. So everything's falling into place. We are quite happy. I thought I would end this vlog by showing you the feeding tube. If you are squeamish, if you don't like seeing things poking out of a child's belly, graphic! If you don't like that sort of thing, I would recommend that you actually stop watching us here, because I'm going to show that and then just end the vlog. All right, here we are. I'm going to lift up Elin's top and show you. See if I can get her to sit up properly and her arms out of the way. This is a specialist plaster. All it does is holding the tube in place because the tube's quite long. So if I undo this plaster, I can take the tube out of it, and you can see here how long it is. Here is the little clip that's on the outside of her abdomen. So on the other side, on the inside, is that soft, flexible sort of stopper. And then there's the tube. Here is a clamp, so you can clamp it shut. And here is a screw thing that you open it with. So you screw in the feed giving set, or you screw in the syringe that you have the medicine in or the water in. And the little clamp is there because basically if you open this part and you haven't got it clamped, you have stomach contents coming out, which is, you know, less than pleasant. So that's it. It is still looking incredibly good. It is healing so well. We are really pleased. The community nurses are seeing her once a week, making sure that everything is as it should be. So we'll put it back, sort of tuck it out of the way, pull her top down so she doesn't get caught on it. And that's it, the end of this vlog and the end of the series documenting the feeding tube surgery. I hope you've enjoyed following this part of Elin's journey, and we'll see you next week for a new topic. Thank you and bye.